sometimes it's difficult to find inspiration, but you know, I truly believe you can inspire yourself.
You need to really find out what you enjoy doing.
Instead of the math skills, go get life skills.
This might be the biggest thing any of us have created.
You never fail. Have you really succeeded?
Woo! That's a good sign. That means we're in.
Yeah, it means we're off to we're back to another podcast.
Back to another podcast. Not only a podcast, but we're here for season 2 kickoff of the Find Your Grind podcast.
Yep.
I can't believe we made it to season 2.
Yep.
It feels like we just shot right into it after season 1 was finished, but that's the way we do things here.
Exactly.
Quickly, efficiently, on top of it. Dude, we got a brand new backdrop that I feel like hopefully we're all looking pretty good on.
I
right
think.
now.
I
You know what I'm
think.
saying?
I
But
think.
yeah, we had the wood backdrop. Now it's a white brick. We actually manually took brick by brick by brick and assembled it here.
Seriously? Or is that a joke?
It was a
No,
joke.
it's
You can
a joke.
tell, right? You can tell.
We got our first guest
Oh, I
on
didn't
season
look
2.
close enough.
Yeah.
We got him good. We got you good, Prince.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What do we got, Dingo?
So today we have a special one. We have Prince Jackson, and we have, like everyone, you did your assessment test.
I did. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, definitely, man, for sure.
How did you turn out on your assessment? What did you get there?
Let me pull it up so I can
Yeah.
double check. But I know that my main thing was called a connector.
Yep.
Okay.
But it
Really?
seemed- yeah.
That's good. I don't think we've had many connectors.
I don't think we
on the-
have.
on the-
Oh,
on
awesome.
the
Well, hopefully I
top
can be the first, but
Yeah.
you know, if I'm not, we can say
No,
it.
no,
That's
you're
all we can
definitely
say it is.
You're definitely the first.
So it says 35% leader, 34% connector, 35% thrill seeker, 39% innovator, and 37% creator again. Oh, no, creator. Yeah.
Okay.
Then if I
pretty good.
shake
And then
it,
what's your main
is connector.
connector?
Boom.
That's a good one.
Prince
yeah,
is
I
out
like
here
it. I
connecting
like
people.
it. Yeah, Prince is a dang connector. I like it. I won't say any bad words.
And a thrill seeker. He rode his motorbike here today. Already got in trouble coming into the valet. These guys, he's got Johnny Louch over here.
Johnny Louch in the building.
And they're causing trouble on their motorbikes. But what we like to do on the Find Your Grind podcast is we kind of take it back, and today's an interesting one, and we take it back to kind of the beginning on where you grew up and how you grew up. And I think of many people, Prince, you got a pretty interesting story on childhood upbringing, and let's just kind of like take it back to early days, what it was like for you, and kind of where you grew up, and
Yeah, where are you from, man?
Yeah, so all of those questions are good questions because
Yeah.
they all have interesting answers. So I was born out here in Los Angeles.
Yep.
And then around when I was like 6 or 7, I think, I left the country with my father.
Yep.
And after that, I traveled a lot. So I got to see the Middle East. I lived in Bahrain, Dubai, and Oman for a while.
Bahrain's a crazy. I've never been, but I've had the past year. Bahrain has come up a lot in our situation here through esports and all this type of
Really?
stuff. Yeah, and then we've had people fly to Bahrain like twice last year.
It's an incredible country.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people kind of expect it to be something, but it will blow your mind away. Very similar to Dubai, but
Yep.
everybody knows what Dubai
don't the
is all
Saudis
about.
don't the Saudis come into Bahrain to party and like
I think
hang out?
so.
I think that's the move.
not
They,
really
like,
my scene, but I would
Yeah.
assume it. It's a very nice city.
That's like the city people go to like let loose because in Saudi there are so many restrictions. But anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you are correct on that. And then I stayed in Ireland for a little bit, visited Japan. I got to see a lot of cultures growing up, and I'm very thankful for that. It opened up my eyes not only to see how the other side lives, but to be understanding and accepting of many other cultures, because so many people are different from us, and you
Yeah.
might not understand why. You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, typically, most people in that situation, and I always say this, like growing up in my background, coming from Australia, but snowboarding gave me an outlet to travel the world at a young age. And I think I got very cultured at a young age by seeing different cultures. And again, you can learn a language or learn a culture in school. You're not going to learn that culture until you actually go and are inducted in that culture and immersed in
Experience
it.
it, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the experiencing. So like the life lessons on going from country to country. So how old were you when you were bouncing around the countries?
It's hard to tell because like I don't really remember the age, but I'm pretty sure it was from the ages of like 6 or 7 till 10 or 11.
Yep.
And I was going
You're
around
just
from
going.
different countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I was homeschooled for pretty much most of my life. And my homeschooling was a little different when I was out of the country.
Yep.
I was learning more about cultures, and my father was really adamant about us being implemented and integrated into that culture and trying
Yep.
to learn. Because a teacher can tell you this is why someone thinks like this, because this is the history of it. but it doesn't really connect and it doesn't really click, and you don't truly understand it until you go out there and you make some type of connection with a native or a local of that culture.
Yeah. Was there a moment you remember, like very specifically when you were 6 to 11, that was very impactful for you?
When I was in Bahrain, I went to a souk, and I think I'm saying that right, but I'm not.
What's a souk?
It's like a very traditional mall. So
Okay.
Bahrain is not by no means an older country. I mean, it's probably been around for a while, but it's very modern and very up to date. But it's also very traditional in the sense that they have these souks, which are basically, they're built very traditionally. I don't know what they're made out of, but they're single level, single story. And it's almost like you're being back in like Arabian Nights, where there's vendors everywhere selling like everything from carpets and swords, but also really cool like iPhones and like modern technology there.
I would buy a sword.
Yeah, and my dad bought a lot of swords, and you collect like I don't know if the term is taxidermied, but bugs, like collections of bugs and spiders and really cool stuff.
Crazy.
But
People collect bugs?
yes, some people do.
yeah, it's
And
a
like
thing.
if you get them framed out there, you know, you get tarantulas and
wow.
wasps, really crazy stuff.
Crazy.
But what I really remember about that was, and this is like my first kind of introduction to the Muslim culture, was at a certain time of day, everybody stopped because the prayer came on the loudspeaker from the mosque, and all the businesses, like you could be in the process of checking out, the cashier gets down on his hands and knees, the customer, everyone
that's
gets down to
crazy.
pray, and everything just stops. For
That's
Wow.
If you weren't from there and you just go there, I would just be in a full blown
and
panic mode.
you
Like,
don't
what
know
is
if
happening?
You're supposed to sit down
It's
or
over.
stand up.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
And what's their traditional attire?
It's actually incredible, and it's very functional. So they wear I don't know what it's called, but the white robe and the headdress.
Yeah, because I bought one of those when I was in Dubai, and I'm not lying to you. I still wear it today. Like I did my ministry, so I ordained a wedding.
Okay.
And I wore it to a wedding, and a friend of mine came
remember
up
that
to me-
photo, yeah.
A friend of mine seriously thought it was like a Chanel like piece.
Yeah.
He's like, no, like how much is this? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, is that thing like 10 grand? And I'm like,
Wow.
no man, I bought
$3. I got it at Walmart. Yeah. Did you enjoy like traveling and like
So,
going around somewhere?
we were just talking about this with Johnny. Traveling is always great, and it's you don't want to complain about it because some people don't ever get to travel the world like in the way I did. But when you spend so much time on the road and you're moving from place to place, it's very hard to have a place of your own or a place to call home. And so there needs to be some kind of balance. And if you're like for a good 4 years, I was just jumping from place to place to place, and I would be there for maybe a year and a half at most, but then instantly you got to pack all your stuff up and you got to go again.
Yeah.
So by no means am I complaining about that, but there is a point where you kind of just don't want to travel anymore, and you would like to explore your own hometown.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of friends growing up, or were your friends like on the road? Like, I'm just thinking like.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of friends growing up that were mostly my dad's colleagues. So I had more mature friends and friends that were a lot older than I did. I had a few friends in each country that were close to my age because they were the children of some of my dad's associates. And that was really cool because you get to interact with your peers.
Yep.
But they're not necessarily your peers because they've been raised a different way. They live in a different culture. They do things differently because maybe it's too hot outside, or there's a reason why they have to go in when the sun goes down or something like that, you know? And but part of the traveling is it's hard to maintain those connections with people, especially once you move or something like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that was like kind of probably pre-social media and all these connecting things.
Yes.
It was like once you leave a country or a friend there, you're like, pen pals?
Exactly.
Was there a reason you think that your father had you guys go through that process, or was it just kind of he wanted to keep you guys with you?
Exactly. So my father loved all of his children very much, and he hated to be away from them. There was only, I can't even really remember a time that he left us. So if he had to leave the country for work, we were going to be there with him. And because we were leaving with him, he wanted it to be an educational experience, something that you wouldn't normally be able to have. So that's why he decided to immerse us into the culture as best as he could.
The energy of all that must have been so fun as a young kid,
definitely
right? Like
is.
going and in the situation that you were in and seeing all the things that were happening. And I remember I traveled a ton because I was a big ice hockey player growing up. So I'd always go to Canada. I would travel to big tournaments and games, and like I loved it because I was around different people, seeing different places, but doing what I really liked, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting you had that growing up as well.
It's super awesome.
And then at what point did that come to a stop when you finally like stopped traveling as much?
So that was probably around when my dad was starting the O2. Yeah, I get the numbers mixed up, but it was the O2 show, that This Is It tour, the final tour.
Yep.
And he had to be local in the state, so we were staying in Vegas for a while. But that drive from Vegas to California, because everything's in Los Angeles, was just so difficult. So then we ended up living in Los Angeles, and I'm pretty much been here since
You've been
then.
You've been here ever since. So you came back. You were living out of Vegas.
Yes.
Did he have a show out of Vegas? Or
He didn't. It's just being in Los Angeles is hard, especially if you're in the industry, you know. Sometimes you need to step away and get some space.
well, that was my one question for you. Like the question I kind of wanted to hit on that one for you. How hard was it growing up being you?
I wouldn't say so. The way I talk about my life is in two stages. There's kind of life with my dad and then life after he died.
Yep.
And when he was alive, it's very easy because I was so sheltered that I didn't have really that awareness or that cognitive sense that his fame came down to me.
Yep.
So it was super easy in that sense. And then after he died, obviously there was an adjustment period to where I don't want to say I had to take the reins, but I was in control of my own identity at that point. And I definitely became more aware that people were following me, paparazzi or stalking me and all types of stuff like this. So I wouldn't say it was difficult, but there was an adjustment period. And because I had been given the tools by my father at a young age to deal with this, you know, so I can't say that it was very difficult.
But so you said it was easy for you, though, kind of being his son growing up. It was
because to me, it was just like you being a son to your dad,
right,
you know, and there was none of
right.
that, my father's the king of pop type of thing. It was just, that was my dad, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because he was very protective. Because over the years there were your faces were covered up, but like it was very obvious that you guys were going throughout countries and moving around, and obviously when you guys would move, there would be a big group of people. But he had kept your guys' identity pretty sheltered. It was until he passed that you guys' identity more so came out, that people more so knew more about you guys and yourself, and then that was probably like, now I have to like kind of man up and be the father figure of the family because there's no one else here to do it. And that must have been, I mean, that's going to make you grow up pretty quick.
Definitely. And I mean, I think it kind of applies to anybody who's lost a parent at a young age, especially if you have siblings or younger family members that are trying to look up to you in a certain way. But in my case, it was different because when my dad died, you know, even at the funeral, at the memorial, I had all these strangers coming up to me saying, man, your dad was incredible. And when I found out he died, I just broke down.
Yep.
And it's very interesting because because of this, I got pretty good at consoling people with grief because, you know, you're talking to a kid who just lost his father saying how you're hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of like you're negating what the child is feeling. But I understand it because so many people, my dad meant the world to them, you know, through the music and all that messages that he inspired. So it's more about, it's also taking charge and making sure that, or trying to keep the family on the right track as far as siblings and everything. But also because I have that name and I have that image and that legacy to live up to, there's an additional pressure kind of on top of that.
What was your identity growing up? That was my question. Like following him around, doing his thing all the time. Like, what were the things you were interested in? You know,
we were always interested in film.
Okay.
So we used to study film together.
Yeah.
And we would watch it without music or sound because he used to always talk about how music is quintessential to a film. The musical score can affect the mood and the vibe of it.
Yep.
If you're watching a scary movie without sound, it's not scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we used to study it frame by frame and just try and see what these guys did, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. Animals is something that's kind of transferred from him to me, like his love of animals.
Yeah.
I have a love of animals.
As do I.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
It's hard to think, and then, you know, Legos and building with your hands and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. And go ahead.
And then everyone likes Legos.
They're the best. I love Legos.
I love Legos as well, Dingo.
No, I think, after the passing and having to find yourself again, how old were you when that happened?
So my dad died when I was 12 years old. I had just turned 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how old are you now?
22.
22.
So it's been about 10 years.
It's been about 10 years. How hard was that process coming out of it? Like, I think my question is, a lot of people you didn't know would have been probably reaching out to you, and
Definitely.
it would have been hard to like, who do I look up to or who do I not look up to? How did you like navigate that process of all these strangers probably coming at you saying whatever they wanted to say, but probably trying to get to you just to get to you?
Yeah, and I mean, you are right. It's I've been, I don't want to say I'm the victim, but I am the target for a lot of people because they see me as kind of like a cash ticket or a money meal, whatever you want to say. And they have malicious intent sometimes, and that's when they come up to me. But like I always say, my father gave me the tools at a young age to know who I couldn't trust.
Yep.
And after his passing, I mean, obviously, yes, I lost a leader, like somebody to look up to and a role model. But I didn't lose those teachings that he was instilling in us at a young age. So it's very difficult to tell people's intentions right out the gate. But I think because of who I am and the way I've been raised, I've gotten pretty good at it, you know, and figuring out who has the best intentions for me and who doesn't.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So then Los Angeles kind of became your home, and did you enroll into high school here?
I did. So I started in actual school when I was in 8th grade.
Yep.
That was your first time in school.
In a real school.
Wow.
First day at school. Here I am, guys.
Hey,
And I can tell you all about Muslim culture, but I couldn't multiply which is kind of ironic because they also created, like Egypt created math, but I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? Was it weird? Was it?
Yeah, it was a little weird. I mean, I had to first education from a traditional and standardized point of view.
Sure.
I was behind because again, like I had a lot of cultural education, but I had none of that. This is grammar. This is where you put a comma, and this is what like 3 times 5 is. Like none of that stuff.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, it was just so difficult to learn. My grammar to this day sucks.
Me too.
I can't write a
Well,
sentence.
it's because he's Australian. He's got an excuse.
But it was definitely an experience to get the educational part of it down. It was like a small adjustment period. I got back on the horse and I was able to kind of get it going. The real weird thing about it was interacting more so with people my age because I usually have not done that.
That was another question I had.
That's crazy.
Did you have to face bullying in a way of any sort here, or because I know kids can be
kids can be kind of mean.
Was there that attention on you?
It was really weird. My school didn't tolerate bullying, and it was just a weird kind of situation. I have not been bullied, but I also mostly kind of just keep to myself, and I don't really pay attention to what other people say. If they want to say something, it's like, oh, okay, I'll keep it going. I don't
That's
really
hard.
care
Hey, but
about
that's
it,
hard to do when you're in
That's
8th
very
grade.
hard to do.
Were you kind of like that?
Yeah,
that young?
I just always, because I was in art, I got into art really quickly in school. So if you were looking for me at my school, I was in the art room. I was working on metal, I was sculpting, whatever it was, and that was kind of my area,
That's epic, man.
Yeah, but there wasn't that many bullies at our school.
Yeah.
And I see, like, I recently watched It, the movie.
The new one?
The new one and the
We are
original
huge
one.
fans of it, by the
They're
way. We are
amazing.
huge fans. By the way,
so
that
good.
first movie is amazing.
Yes.
It's so good. I
Fantastic.
watched it 3 nights ago.
Yeah.
But the bullying in that movie is kind of like, is that what bullies are like? Like, that's assault. That's more than bullying. Like, they're stabbing.
it's
people.
heavy.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like, there
That's-
are people getting stabbed in the stomach. Like, what is happening?
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, like that's a real thing of like it used to be like, I think it is still like that, in certain areas. Kids can be awful, and we know that, and just where kids are at today, like kids suicide is at an all-time high.
Yep.
It's like kids have so much is in front of them, so that's really quite amazing that you like were able to, and that's probably something you got from your dad and the world travels, and you've been able to implement that, and you're like, all right, I'm just kind of like focused on myself.
Definitely, but also on the other side, I feel that I would be a very difficult target to bully.
Yeah.
Just because of my lineage and whose kid I am, I don't necessarily think. I mean, at my school there wasn't much physical bullying. You could say maybe emotional or verbal, whatever you want to say. But there was even if I went to any other school, I doubt that I would necessarily be a victim of bullying.
Yep.
Also because I truly don't care about what people say about me. Like I see a lot of there's that cyberbullying, which for me, it doesn't work because you can easily just turn off the Instagram, the Snapchat, the Twitter, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And there are people's words who are on a screen that usually don't have the confidence to say it to your face.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it was necessarily something that I had to go through, nor would it be something that I would expect me to go through.
Cool. What was the rest of your high school days like? Did you set out on the path that you want to go on? Because I know that you recently have graduated college and you're moving into a new field. What were those like rest of the high school days like here?
High school is very interesting because I always find myself thinking and reflecting back on it, kind of seeing, you know, was that within my character or was I trying to impress somebody when I did that? And like for me personally, I love the city of Las Vegas. I lived there for a while, but I don't like to club. I don't really like to gamble, and I don't drink that much. So it's weird for me to like something like that, you know, but I really just like the vibe and the feel of it.
But in saying that, it's like Vegas is the biggest showtown in the world.
Yeah.
So your dad is your dad.
Yeah,
so being attracted to the bright lights of Las Vegas
It
makes
fits.
sense because I think he probably was as well.
Definitely. But so what I'm saying is that when I was in high school, you know, you kind of want to fit in. You want to find your group that you kind of fit in with.
Yep.
And sometimes maybe you force things. So I'm not a sociable going out to parties type of person. So I'll go out to parties. And for a while I did that. And I was like, yeah, this is fun, but it's not really me. And the reason when I kind of had an epiphany about that was one of my friends who went to school. He was from Korea. After he graduated, he goes back to Korea. And I was talking to him. He said, yeah, he became a monk. He was very sober, no smoking, no drinking, none of that. And when I asked him why he did it, he just said, I realized that wasn't me. And the way he said it was like, you know, it's okay to stand out from the rest of what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
Because you're not comfortable with it, you know, and you're on your own path kind of doing whatever it is that you're doing. And for me, I think that's kind of what my high school experience was like, was I was focused on my art, my education, and really making meaningful relationships with a select amount of people
Yep.
at my school.
That's great.
And then did you go straight out of high school into college?
I did, yes.
What did you study at college?
So I originally wanted to go for film, but when I started my application process as a senior, they said you needed a film portfolio, which I did not have, and I didn't have time to. So, time to pivot and time to switch it up and see where am I going to go and what am I going to do. And I knew that my family had been taken advantage of historically on the business end of almost all deals.
Yep.
And I felt like that was something that I really needed to strengthen my knowledge of. So it was always kind of an idea was to go for a minor in business. So now I switched it and I went for a major in business. And I ended up going to Loyola Marymount University in Playa Vista for a bachelor's degree in business administration with a focus on entrepreneurship.
Crazy. All right,
Wow.
I like the focus on entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
that's
it
a
was
good one.
You know, it's a little creative type of thing for business.
So you recently graduated?
Yes, in May. It feels like it was so long ago, but I graduated in May. Like,
Oh, dang. There you go. All right, there we go.
Hey.
Congratulations. And you made it through. At least one of us in this room did. Yeah.
Since that, and you only just recently graduated, and I know there's kind of different areas, but we were talking about it. You've done a few things in film and had a few content plays. Where do you see film and content in your future?
Well, I think it's very interesting because a lot of my friends from college and my girlfriend, everybody thinks that once you get out, you kind of have to have a set plan of what you're going to do and where you're going to go with it. And for a long time, you know, I thought I was going to be in film and the entertainment industry. And going to college, like I really like business and the way it works. And there's a creative art that kind of comes from bringing all the different parts together. And so I have my film production company and I was working on music videos. And now I'm kind of working on rebranding it to just do content creation, maybe for brands or for other companies. And I'm just kind of seeing where it goes with that. But mostly my focus has been in philanthropy and charitable work.
Yep.
So a friend of mine and I started a student organization on our campus, and it focused on child abuse, hunger, and homelessness in the greater Los Angeles area. But once we both graduated, we felt it was time to, you know, move it and take it further. So now we are the Heal Los Angeles Foundation, and we are focused mostly on educational initiatives for the youth of Los Angeles.
Yep.
Because I feel that I was very fortunate in my life to be able to pay for a good education, to be able to pay for an attorney or for an accountant who can tell me about my taxes. But the thing is I still don't know how to write a check, how to pay my taxes, balancing a checkbook, and none of that was taught to me at school.
Yeah.
So if you're not taught that within the home, and the school's not teaching it to you, you're basically stuck, you know, and you don't know how to be an adult in this world. So that's kind of where our focus is to try and fill in the gaps where I feel that the education system has kind of dropped the ball.
Totally. And as are we, right? With Find Your Grind and everything that we're doing, it's really about like these social and emotional learning topics not necessarily but mixed in with kind of these academic topics that also are important to growth. I think earlier on, more so than college, I feel like in college, there should be a huge focus on the direction you want to go in, spending those 4 years in a,
definitely,
focused sense, right? Which sounds like you were.
Well, I think college is interesting because everybody says, you got to go to college, and that's kind of what it used to be. Like, I mean, a degree helps, especially if you're in like this traditional job market. Just having a degree makes you stand above the rest of the competition.
Yep.
But as the market is changing and the economy is moving forward, the bachelor's degree is starting to mean less and less, and people are now looking more forward a master or a PhD.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily like you can hire somebody, as we were talking, who doesn't even they could barely have a GED.
Yep.
But they can be more qualified and more experienced than someone who has a bachelor's.
Yeah.
So I think when I talk to other people who graduated, it's not so much about what you learn at college. It's more about who you meet and what you learn about yourself.
So true.
And you can get that from not going to college. You can get that from just walking down to a coffee shop and having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I chose to go to school to, further my education. I was fortunate enough that I was able to. And, I feel that I got a lot out of it personally.
That's cool. It's like, I feel like we hear that more and more. It's like kids it's more so the experience they're getting from college rather than the degree or anything else they're getting out of college. Like, listen, you may never use your degree again.
Yeah.
But you know that you wanted to go and learn about that. So you put yourself in it. And as you wanted to learn more and more about business, it was able to give you the tools to learn about it. And then essentially you're able to plant that wherever you want to in life and then kind of move forward. And that's the kind of the cool thing about entrepreneurship. There's kind of the world's your oyster.
Yeah, exactly.
There's zero boundaries on like where you can take it. And I think like with your life experiences, like you could implement that to kind of anything.
Definitely.
And then go and like succeed at that.
Yeah. And another thing I think is, for me, it's actually funny. My first 2 years almost had nothing to do with business or entrepreneurship. They're all, your GEs, your electives and all that stuff. And because Loyola is a Jesuit school, a lot of it is theological based study. So I got to take, and going back to the inclusion of other cultures, I got to take classes on other religions like Hinduism, Catholicism. I got to look deeper into, and I think it gave me a more profound understanding of people who are very pious and very devout to their religion. And it's just an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, I wish I would have been that engaged in my school stuff.
Right?
I'm like, wow, he actually really sat down to study the thing, or like I would now I would love to do that. You know what I mean? But back then, when I was 22, God, I wasn't doing that.
Focused on other stuff.
I was focused on other stuff, which is okay.
It's never too late. You can always pick up a book. You can always, now we have YouTube, which can teach you so much stuff so easily.
Yeah, we've had people come in here and explain that YouTube is the current college.
It's fantastic.
It really is, or Google.
Yeah, you can type everything in and learn everything. And that's the difference about today than before the smartphone or before the internet. You used to have to actually go and learn something. Like if you had to read to get your knowledge. You had to get your knowledge from somewhere. And then I forget the guy's name, but he was a super smart guy. And he goes, yeah, if I didn't know the answer, I'd make it up because nobody could fact check. He goes, now you can't. You can't make something up because somebody will fact check you.
Yeah.
But in saying all that, you also in the back of your mind know the answer to everything because you can just kind of type it in. The difference is going and immersing yourself in it and learning that. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is that you're quite the outdoors guy. You're quite like you came here on your motorbike with Johnny. You're riding around on Harleys. You're talking about jumping out airplanes. You're quite the thrill seeker, and I think that's has that always been in you? Was your dad kind of like that as well?
I think so. So I mean, the term I'm definitely a thrill seeker, but my dad was more adventurous.
Yep.
So for me, it's more you're kind of putting something on the line, and it's a little bit dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's where you get that adrenaline rush. But growing up, my dad always wanted to go. I was on, you know what quads are? Like four-wheelers, ATVs. So I was always doing that with him. I had a mean burn from the engine one time. And, you kind of it wasn't dangerous. It could be, obviously.
Yeah.
But we would go and we would climb mountains. And we would just look and get to the top of the view. Maybe have a picnic up there. or we would go on a walk through a forest and go find something. And that kind of adventurous spirit was definitely instilled in me. And I felt that it carries over perfectly on the motorcycle, you know, and it's kind of, especially out in LA, if you have to sit in traffic all the time, I think that is one of the worst things you can do to a human. Because you're wasting like 2 hours of your life every day, 4 hours probably, there and back.
Okay, so I have something perfect. The other day I went to go hike Hollywood sign, and it was Sunday, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go over to the Gelson's in Hollywood and I'll get my food, and then I went to get back on the freeway on a Sunday. It's football day, so the freeway, the 101 to the 110's blocked. I'm like, oh, I'll just like shoot down Olympic. I went to shoot down Olympic. There was some other festival going on, so Wilshire's closed, Olympics closed. I got stuck in this. It took me 2 hours to get home, and it was 6 miles. I could see my apartment from downtown. I'm just like, Los Angeles, man. This place is ridiculous. It was Sunday, and I'm losing it in the car.
Yeah.
It's not like Australia.
It's not like anywhere in the world, you know. And a lot of people, they kind of just. It's funny because I like to talk to people about Los Angeles if they're not from here.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that we just kind of like Hollywood. We're used to that.
Yep.
But I had my girlfriend go down there, and she's not from like a big city or anything like that, and she was scared of Hollywood. You know. When you see Hollywood, you're like,
terrified
lights and signs and all that. So nice.
It's scarier in the daytime than it is in the nighttime because you can see what they all look like. It's The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And it is sad, you know. Like I was reading again today. Like somebody sent me an article, and it was you know, there's 60,000 living homeless people in downtown, and that number is growing. Somebody sent me an article today on a guy that graduated from Harvard that was a lawyer that is now like living homeless, and this whole story is about his like background,
like downtown.
And like somebody sent me a picture of this guy and the story on him, and it's like it's I randomly did another podcast recently too, and people were talking about it. And you've been here for some time now, so you get Los Angeles. Think about what it looked like maybe 10 years ago, and then now you think about what it looks like today, and we're so overpopulated with just overpopulated in general. But then you think of the homeless society that's out there. There are kids being born in there that don't have social security numbers, that don't have IDs, that are being raised in that world.
It's crazy. It's a huge problem.
It is, and it's super sad because you don't necessarily like one person could say, well, rent and property value is just too high out here, and that could be a very big contributing factor to that issue. But there's also mental health issues. There's not enough social security funding and stuff like that, and it's heartbreaking to see that, you know, as a human you still have dignity. But out here, a lot of homeless people feel that they have lost their dignity, especially because they've just been demoralized by, you know, passerbys or whoever.
Totally.
So what's next for you, Prince?
So I'm actually really focusing on the nonprofit because
that's awesome.
I love Los Angeles, to tell you the truth. And my dad was always big about giving back to the community. And I just feel that this city we have great weather. You know, you could go to the beach, you could go to the snow, you could go to the mountains. It's just incredible. And I feel that I should not be so fortunate that I can ignore my fellow neighbors down the street, because you can literally drive like 2 blocks and be in a underfunded neighborhood, you know? And I just feel that there is this discrepancy that comes from the wealthiest of the wealthy to the poorest of the poor. And it's almost like it's our duty to support them.
Yeah.
You
What's
know?
the foundation called?
The Heal Los Angeles Foundation.
Heal Los Angeles Foundation. Cool. And
so it's kind of like a homage, you know, to my father's Heal the World Foundation. And he had a much larger platform and a worldwide international platform. And I feel that I can do personally the most work within my own hometown.
That's amazing, man. Anything on the film side of things you guys are doing?
So I'm right now filming a pilot. I don't want to talk too much about it just because I want to make sure it's finalized before I do it, you know?
Of course.
But as I was mentioning, I'm rebranding the company, and it could go from branding content to full-blown creative content. For me, I would love to make a movie. Both to see if I can do it, and also to see if it's something I would love to continue to do.
Yeah. Because
there's something about the camaraderie, the stress, and like the go get 'em that's on when you're on set and filming a production for however long it is. And it's almost like riding a bike. Like it's a rush that you're chasing all the time, you know? And then after it's done, I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done. This sucked. And then like 3 weeks later, all right, let's go again.
We had Dylan Efron, Zac Efron's brother, in here recently, and he worked on a movie with Kevin Hart and Will Smith. Well, not Will Smith, Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell, sorry. And he was like, it was a week of like 110 degrees in a parking lot in New Orleans. He goes, I was out. I now know I'm not making films anymore. Yeah. It was Get Hard.
Oh,
it was on the set of Get Hard. He did a week of 110 in New Orleans parking lot.
Wow.
I said, all right, then you're out.
That would do it.
You grew up surrounded by inspiration on such a huge level.
Definitely.
What would you say to young people who have no inspiration? You know, like where to find it, where to get going, where to get started. Like
that's so interesting,
you know?
too, because I mean, obviously my father is a big inspiration for me, but not so much because I don't really pursue a career in music, so I don't look to him for inspiration in that.
Sure.
It's more of his moral character and his integrity. And I recently saw a speech from Matthew McConaughey, and he was talking about how his role model is him 10 years from now, and he's going to always be chasing his role model. So I feel that if you're lacking of inspiration, sometimes it's difficult to find inspiration. But you know, I truly believe you can inspire yourself if you just take I always like to be self-reflective and think on myself. Maybe, and the good thing about it is there's nobody to judge you. You know, it's you yourself judging yourself. So whatever conclusion you come to, you have to live with it. And for me, it's like, you know, reflect and think: Is this what you want to be remembered as? Is this the character that you want people to talk about when you're done? And if it isn't, then you need to take accountability for that and either apologize or make changes to your behaviors. And, you know, you really got to be the person you would want to see yourself as. Yeah. And not from your point of view, but from your point of view, because you're the one experiencing what I'm providing, you know, and not just me, how I think of it.
I love that.
That was a really good answer.
Really good.
Thank you. I hope I didn't lose you guys.
No, it's so true. Another one that we love to ask on this podcast is, what does it mean to find your grind from your perspective?
It's super interesting because a lot of people think that I have it all together, you know, like, I mean, I told you about what I want to do and what I'm trying to do right now, but I wouldn't tell you that I have found my grind personally. And I feel that it's something that you're going to continue to look for. And it's, you know, as a human being, you're a dynamic person. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago. And that's going to change, and that's going to keep changing.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
You know, your thoughts and your preferences, they all change. So I feel that I really like the mission and like the vibe you guys put out for that. And I feel that it's, you know, what is making you happy and what are you getting out of it from doing that, you know? For me, I really think that my grind is giving back to the community. In whichever way that I can, you know, and it might not be big and glamorous and glitzy, but my goal is really to just change the life of one person. Yeah. And because I feel that there is such a gratifying experience that comes when they're like, hey, you know, you really helped me out a lot by inspiring me or by showing me the error of my way, something like that. Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be televised. It doesn't have to be written about, none of that. But it's what makes you feel good and you got something out of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to always be, I mean, on your level, obviously starting a nonprofit is something that you've had to do to have that foundation and organization. But it's easy to go out and help somebody, right? Like it's a simple act of just doing something. You can impact people's lives by doing the simplest of things. You don't always need the big nonprofit or whatever it is. Like
sometimes it's just listening, because some people feel so unheard and their voices are not being expressed that if you just sit there and listen, you don't have to respond to them. You just make them feel as if they're getting it off their chest. That could change their entire day or their life. Yeah. So I think that, you know, finding my grind or finding your grind, what it means to me would be, it's not so much to make a living, and I think that too many people focus on that. But you need to make a difference, either in your life or in the life of someone else's. But that should more be the focus of it.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Man, I admire that. That's for a 22-year-old. That's speaking like a 45-year-old. You've lived and seen many lives, man. But I admire you for saying that and everything you've gone through, and just it's in situations that you can go so many different angles or different areas, and I think the path you chose is your path, but it's a strong path.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you.
You're really like you got a good head on your shoulders, and you're obviously smart, and you're living. Don't know about hanging out with Johnny Louch. But we can give you a whole pass to that one. But it's like you know it's you're here and you're taking opportunities and you're helping out, and like going back to the it's like it's that one person. If you can affect one person, your job's done. You're going to affect thousands of people, and more than that. But it's that one person, and it's finding what's right in this world or what you think's right, and then backing into that. Because if we all back into what we think's right and making the world a better place, we will make the world a better place.
Definitely.
You know, but we're still so full of hatred and it's even like picking up trash. If you see some trash on the ground, just pick it up.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like the other day, I can't stand like if I see like driving today, someone just threw a can out the window.
Yeah, I can't handle
if
that.
If I could strangle, I don't care if I could just strangle that person.
Yeah.
Because you're just part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, they're not part of the solution.
There's something bigger than all of us here, right?
Yeah.
And
Way bigger.
you're disrespecting that energy.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
and it's going
exactly.
to come back, and it's all negative. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And you've got good energy, Prince.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Where can people find the foundation and you, I guess?
So we have a Giving Fuel, which is up for donations. We're still in the beginning process. We're doing our first fundraising, but we have an Instagram, Heal Los Angeles Foundation. There is no post on it yet because we had a previous one, which was the student org. And the Giving Fuel, you can just type in the Heal Los Angeles Foundation and it should take you to the Giving Fuel.
Cool. All right, awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
by
guys.
the
I really
office, man.
appreciate
It's
it.
so good to meet you,
Nice
dude.
to meet
Yeah,
you.
I love it.
Appreciate
I love
it.
it.
Come by anytime.
Definitely,
Our
for
home
sure.
is your home.
Cheers.